Hey, what's going on guys? It's Acefield back again with another video. Now in my previous video, we discussed what Zautok might actually be. And I put forth a theory that Zautok is an elder god from Erebus that represents the concepts of bones and death. Go check it out if you haven't already. And in this video, I wanted to explore those elements and concepts further, so let's talk about them. In our universe, we have the elder gods. And each of these elder gods represents some kind of concept and element that is natural to our own universe. So for example, you have Jazz as sand, air, progression, Fool as fire and constancy, Wen as ice and inversion, Bik as earth and alteration, and Ma as light, dark, and potential. Now it stands to reason that since Erebus is a completely different universe, it would operate in completely different rules. I touched a little bit upon this in the previous video, but it seems to me that one of the core themes with Erebus is life, living beings. For example, you have the necrotic rune altar with bones, flesh, spirit, and miasma, which all connect and relate to life in some way. Then you have things such as Zautok and Voss, who are seemingly attracted to life. Then there's also the fact that Chthonian demons originated from Erebus, and how Erebus is considered as a Zerosian afterlife, and how souls are entering Erebus are mentioned. I just think that there's a lot of convincing evidence, to me at least, that life is a core theme for that universe. Now that we have that conversation out of the way, let's actually try to guess the elements and concepts of Erebus. Right off the bat, you have bone, flesh, spirit, and miasma. Again, these are directly found in the necrotic rune temple, which is a pocket dimension of Erebus. So there's that direct correlation. Now, building off of these, I would also assume that Erebus has the following runes: mind, body, death, blood, and soul. These directly tie into the theme of life. Now I do want to note that even though these runes are found in our universe, I would think there would be some kind of overlap, right? Like both universes can have these, it's just that Erebus is going to have a greater emphasis on them since it connects with its overall arching theme. Likewise, there's death, blood, and soul runes. Those are used in ancient magics, which have been stated to draw power from Erebus. And because of that, I would think that ice, blood, shadow, and smoke are also elements of Erebus. And finally, I want to add these last four, which are fear, fire, waste, and wrath. These actually come from the names of the music that is unlocked when you enter the necrotic rune temple: rune fear, rune fire, rune waste, and rune wrath. These are song names, but I actually think these might be core concepts for Erebus, which I'll make my case in a bit. So these are the elements and concepts of Erebus that I think we can for sure nail down: bone, flesh, spirit, miasma, mind, body, death, blood, soul, ice, shadow, smoke, fear, fire, waste, and wrath. This is roughly the same amount of runes that exist in our own universe. It's actually a little bit less, so we're probably missing something, but it's roughly the same amount. Now looking at these, you can definitely see some overarching themes. For instance, you have flesh, blood, body, and fire; spirit, soul, wrath, mind, and ice; bone, death, and fear; and miasma, smoke, and waste. You can start to group these together and see that there are even levels to them, such as a concept, core element, and a catalytic version. There are 4 distinct groups, which is very similar to how we have our 4 base elements in our own universe. And as I mentioned before, fire, fear, waste, and wrath. Even though these come from song names, I do believe that they might actually be core concepts in Erebus. For example, you have fire, which ties into flesh and blood. You know, it's the fire that burns within a living thing that keeps them going, that keeps them pumping. Then there's the fear. Bones and death are clearly 2 very scary things. Then there's waste. This one needs a bit more exploration, but again, it ties into miasma and smoke. Then there's wrath, which is a concept that is very rooted in a living thing, within a person, spirit, soul, and mind. Wrath does not exist without life. And now lastly, you may be wondering why I have left Shadow by itself. Why did I not play Shadow with fear, bones, and death? And I think that Shadow might actually be part of an entirely different category. Like Shadow, fear, bones, and death, they all do kind of make sense. Shadow is very scary, very much aligns with that category. But like I said, I think we are dealing with something completely different when talking about Shadow. When talking about Erebus's anima, or the threat that comes from Erebus, or the breaches or the creatures from Erebus, Shadow is something that always comes up. Because of that, I think Shadow by itself is just such a strong concept and element that it can stand alone by itself. And I think it might actually be wrong to categorize Shadow under fear. Again, Shadow is very scary, it does invoke fear, but in the context of Erebus, I think Shadow actually aligns with this concept of devourment. The concept of devourment is something that we can see time and time again when looking at things relating to Erebus. First example being Chthonian demons. Chthonian demons originated from Erebus, and one of their most notable traits is the desire to eat each other. You know, they will eat each other and other things, and they gain more power doing so. It actually got so bad that they had to make legal restrictions in their own society to eat each other. The second example of devourment being Ammaskut. This is probably the weakest example, but you know, Ammaskut, the devourer, she eats souls, yeah. And lastly, this is not really an example, but more of a thought. When talking about a lot of the Erebus stuff, it sounds like, you know, a lot of these things are spreading. Zautalk's influence over worlds, spreading. The shadow threat slowly creeping in and spreading. It's for that idea and for those examples what I think devourment might be this fifth category of elements and concepts. You can change the wording up to be, you know, consumption or expansion or even conquest, but I just thought devourment was more fitting word. But overall, it's this idea of, you know, expanding and consuming other things, which is something that we're seeing with Erebus. So yeah, this was a fun little video theorizing what the natural elements and concepts might be for Erebus. There might actually be more than the ones we've listed. For example, music and art might actually be one, since music often comes up and is, you know, connected with life. It also makes you wonder, who are these other lords of Erebus that represent these other elements and concepts? For example, for me personally, I think Voss might be Erebus's elder god of wrath, spirit, and soul, given his ties to stars. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, if you agree, disagree, or if you have any other ideas of your own. I'd love to hear them. Anyways, my name is ACPL, and I'll be catching you guys in the next video. Peace.